think we can safely say I've got a thing for Australian chicks. Let's talk about MAE Classic, episode 3. What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, here with your review for the MAE Classic, episode 3. Only one more left to go in this first round, and although this is the first episode I can genuinely come up here and say to you that there was one match that was really disappointing, it's still a lot of fun. The other 3 matches definitely made up for it, but I mean, there's less and less preamble every time we go. I mean, they rehash who's already won, the 8 women that have already advanced, they show the brackets, etc. I don't think I need to reiterate that to you guys every time I do a vid. What I will say, we'll go right into the first match, and it's Aisha Raymond versus Toni Storm. Now, Toni Storm, I remember from the bracketology show, she seemed to have a really cool vibe to her, really cool attitude, and, you know, she actually got to sit down with Lita and Corey Graves and get some talking in. She's from Australia. She's hot as fuck. She's got that rock star / tomboy vibe going on. She's got the little, like, whatever you want to call the little gimmick streak on her face. She's got the hat that Jim Ross talked about. Jim Ross talked about her hat a lot during this match, which was kind of awkward. But, and then on the other side of the coin, you've got Aisha Raymond, who's a power lifter and a cat. She tries to go for this whole, you know, I find the felines out there in the wilderness to be all powerful, like the cougars, the tigers, the lions, etc. But I can't help but think, okay, so in her spare time she's a furry. That's awesome. Let's just see how that goes. There's no handshake, and really loud Toni chants to start this match. One thing I will say about this episode specifically is the crowd in Full Sail is very, very interesting and very opinionated, as they are known to be. There's no handshake. Aisha and Toni both fake each other out for a handshake, and then they both get started. There's a shoving match on headlock by Raymond. Raymond works the arm, and Storm reverses that. Anything you can do, I can do better. You guys know I love that story. Straight boot to the chest by Storm. Sort of stops Raymond in her place for a second. Snapmare and multiple hip attacks by Storm. Jim Ross goes on telling a couple of stories about how she's well known for her hip attacks. And while it does look good, and while it is a great way to follow up from a snapmare, you can't help but think, because we've been treated to seeing Asuka in NXT, that it's a little off from that. Side slam by Raymond, followed up by a scoop slam. Headbutt by Storm and a backstabber off the ropes. She's got her perched. Now, if you can imagine when Miz does his perched clothesline on the ropes, where he sort of pauses and sits on that second turnbuckle and sort of taunts the crowd, etc. She's got Raymond in that position, but takes her from that position into a backstabber, which I thought was really cool. Running knee and a Northern Lights release toss by Storm. Raymond misses a Snuka splash, and there's a cradle roll up by Toni Storm to get the win. Now, I will say, for most of this match, it was chance for Toni Storm, but at the end, they were actively booing Aisha Raymond, and it caught her off guard. She paused, she hesitated before that Snuka splash, and that's why it didn't hit. The cradle roll-up by Storm was a pretty anticlimactic way to end the match, but I like Toni Storm. She's already got a fan in me, and I hope she goes far. Toni Storm moves on in the next round to face either Tainara, okay, I'm going to butcher this name, aren't I? Tainara Conte or Lacey Evans. Lacey Evans, who we've seen on NXT quite a bit, so I don't think she needs to advance. So Tainara Conte is my prediction for the next round. I believe at about 3 a.m. tonight is when my TiVo is going to record episode 4. I know I'm not staying up that ridiculously late to do another review. Also, to anybody in the States and my fellow Canadians and anybody else that actually celebrates the Labor Day weekend, happy Labor Day weekend to everybody. If you're in another country that doesn't, I'm sorry. That's all I've got. Speaking of things I want to get excited about, and I could not get excited at all about Kavita Devi, whose opening video package basically says 2 things. That she was trained by the Great Khali. Yay. I know Great Khali is a huge friggin' deal in India. They basically, like, if you hear the Jinder Mahal interview on Talk is Jericho, they basically talk about Khali in India like he's a god. But as far as WWE fans and what we've seen of the Great Khali, saying that you're trained by the Great Khali is like, okay, yay. So you walk down to the ring Kevin Nash style and stand there like a tree. But she wants to represent India. She's proud to represent India and all that sort of thing. And it's all good, you know. Somebody coming on over across the pond to America to make good, like that kind of feel-good story. But Dakota Kai is another one that I remember from the bracketology, who really, really, really energetic, smaller girl from New Zealand, I think. New Zealand? Yeah, not Australia. Definitely New Zealand. You know, big ball of energy, and not only does she say it, but the commentators back it up. They reiterate the point later on down the line that, yeah, she's a big, happy ball of energy, super positive, etc. She's another one that got to actually sit with Graves and Lita, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Big ball of energy, but don't worry, she'll kick your head off and smile while she does it. Jim Ross mentioned several times as well that this girl's been on WWE's radar since 2014. So my immediate reaction to that is, where the hell have they been hiding her? But that's just me. This match is pretty quick. Basically, Kavita Devi is a power lifter. She's a well-known power lifter in India. So there's a lot of power versus, you know, Dakota Kai sort of surviving the power. There's a collar and elbow tie up to start, and a toss by Devi, and a lot of arm drags. A lot of arm drags. And what was the submission that Undertaker did a lot when he was the American Badass, where he would like post your arm and lift you straight up by your own arm? It was almost like a mid-air lifting armbar type maneuver. It looks really painful. I wouldn't want it done to me, but she just does that a lot, and then she eventually puts her down and arm drags her and picks her up and does that again. So no, I'm not going to write down every time she does that. But at one point, Dakota Kai breaks free, gets a series of kicks in, a boot and a monkey flip, but then Devi comes back with a slam and a gorilla press slam and a lot more tosses. Just various ways of tossing Dakota Kai around the ring. It's kind of like, in case you forgot, you're smaller than me, so I'm going to do this. Breakaway by Dakota Kai, one more time, and if you're going to... I hate to say that she's stealing maneuvers, but, you know, I don't know her moveset before she came here, but if you want to say breakaway, you know, have one high spot, haluva kick by Dakota Kai, followed by the coup de grace for the win, I mean, you're talking about the NXT crowd, you're talking about the NXT arena, you're talking about Full Sail University, the breeding ground of guys like Sami Zayn and Finn Balor. So if you got this girl that's had the ever-living shit kicked out of her by this chick that's, other than being incredibly powerful, is kind of boring, she breaks away for two moves. You're going to do a haluva kick, you're going to do a coup de grace, you're going to get the win, and you're going to keep the crowd on your side. And much like the last match, the crowd in this match was 100% behind Dakota Kai. Nothing against Kavita Devi. Obviously, she's very powerful. She's very well known for her powerlifting and her acumen in those regards in India. But the people at Full Sail, and I'm not going to lie, myself as well, could not be paid to give a shit. Dakota Kai goes on to face Rhea Ripley in the next round. So the Aussies and the New Zealanders are all going on, and they're all partying, and it's all good. And when you get, I didn't mention this in the last match either, but when you got the Aussies out there, and you definitely got the Australian fans in there somewhat, because they got that Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi chant, and it's all very good. And they bring, I'm not a fan of soccer, but sort of like that raucous soccer crowd type of vibe. And when you combine that, once again, I'm going to go to the last match. When you combine that with somebody like Toni Storm, who's also got that rock star element to her, you're going to have somebody that the crowd is behind. We pan through the crowd to see some of the dignitaries in the audience. We see the Rock's family, including Nia Jax. Jim Ross has some nice things to say about Nia Jax, which is fine. And then we see Charlotte. Nice to see Charlotte. I mean, I know this is pre-taped and everything like that, but it is still nice to see Charlotte when you consider what's going on with Ric Flair and all that sort of thing. She's sitting with Sarah Del Rey, who I've never seen in the ring, but is apparently one of the driving forces behind the women's division in NXT. And I hope, if she's what makes the NXT women's division so great, I hope she lends some of her skills to the main roster as well. And I lost my place. Bianca Belair versus Sage Beckett. Now, again, this is interesting, and my entry points to this match are various. Bianca Belair qualified for the Mae Young Classic in an exclusive on the WWE YouTube channel against NXT's Aaliyah. Now, I reviewed this. you can go back in the playlist and you can actually see the very first video in this playlist is me reviewing that video from the WWE's YouTube channel, Bianca Belair versus Aaliyah. I gave my thoughts. I kind of thought it would be a nice little preview for the tournament. But I'm also a really big fan of Aaliyah, so how much of a fan I am of Bianca Belair now. Rumor being that she's somehow related to Will Smith, and that's why her last name in this tournament is Belair, which is fine, and they go over extensively the fact that she uses her hair as a weapon, which I still question as being logical or legal. But anyways, then you got Sage Beckett, who's a slightly bigger chick, and she cuts what I'm assuming is supposed to be sort of a creepy, scary, intimidating promo, like voicing over her video package. But she talks a lot about how people think she's a witch, but she's not a witch, she's a shaman, and she gathers all the elements in the universe and in nature to help her win her matches and shit. I'm like, I don't care. I don't shit on any... I don't know if this is even true. First of all, if it is true, if the woman behind this Sage Beckett character is some sort of Wiccan or witch or shaman or anything like that, I'm not going to sit here and shit on anybody's beliefs. But as far as whether I like you as a wrestler or not, I really don't care. Jim Ross gives a little more context as she's on her way to the ring, saying that she was trained by the Dudleys. Keep that in mind. Sage Beckett and Bianca Belair, this match was boring. And you can tell, because the NXT crowd, who can be counted on, and I'm going to say the NXT crowd because it's in NXT Arena, the Full Sail Arena, so it is a lot of the NXT crowd, I'm pretty damn sure. I mean, in one of the previous episodes, you actually saw, I think, Bailey and somebody else sitting with the world-famous Bailey fan, Izzy, the kid that's like 9 and is like an Instagram and Twitter sensation because she's a fan of Bailey, and that's awkward. But... even if a match is bad, the NXT crowd can be counted on to amuse themselves with the chants, with the energy, putting themselves over if what's going on in the ring isn't that great. The crowd is dead for this entire match. I want to get excited because I've got a little bit of an inlet. I've seen one of these women at least once before, but it just doesn't happen. Collar and elbow tie-up, a stare down, and some bland trash talk. A headlock by Belair, a shoulder tackle by Sage. And Sage, she's not even as big as Nia Jax, but she kind of maneuvers in the ring awkwardly like Nia Jax does, which is only underscored by the fact that we just saw Nia Jax in the crowd not too long ago, and none of it is helping me enjoy the match. Dropkick by Belair, and a turnbuckle shot and a mudhole stomp, hard elbow shots and a lariat by Belair, slam by Sage, a trip and a facebuster by Belair, a leg drop to the back by Belair, which just looks messy, and it's followed up with a splash. Sage, who's trained by the Dudleys, could you hit it any more on the nose, comes back with a Bubba Bomb, that big full Nelson slam into a inverted atomic drop to the ring floor. Bubba Bomb made me pop slightly, only because Jim Ross happened to mention that this girl was trained by the Dudleys. They trade some punches. There's a knee lift by Sage, puts her in the Tree of Woe and hits her with a lazy looking splash. The hair whip, and I will say a great looking spear by Bianca Belair gets her the win. Bianca Belair wins the match, goes on to face either Kairi Sane or Tessa Blanchard in the next round. We all know who it's going to be, even though I haven't watched it yet, because Doofus from New York is out there shoving spoilers in everybody's face, which is not great, and this match wasn't great either. I'm sorry. I mean, we've gone 12 matches so far in the first 3 episodes of the tournament, and I've got one disappointing match. I'm not going to say that that takes away from the tournament. It was going to happen eventually, and at least it happened in the first round and not somewhere near the final. Now, pick the crowd right back up, and a mixed crowd throughout the entire match was Piper Niven versus Santana Garrett. Piper Niven, and I will say this because the commentators sounded like they were tiptoeing around it all match, Piper Niven's a big girl. Big girl from Scotland. She's apparently the only Scottish wrestler to ever main event a show at Korakuen Hall in Japan. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Japanese wrestling. I don't watch New Japan or IWGP or any of that stuff. But from the little bit that I've heard, Korakuen Hall is kind of like their Madison Square Garden. So that's kind of cool. She talks about, her size advantage because she's obviously a bigger girl and, she can do stuff that the girls half her size can't do. And it's all good and it's all positive. And for the people out there that push the narratives, beauty comes in all sizes and all that kind of crap, I guess it's good for that. I mean, I'm just like, show me something in the ring. That's me. But if you want to put those positive messages out there, then go ahead and do it. There's nothing wrong with that. Santana Garrett gets referred to multiple times as the Mae Young Classics version of Wonder Woman, which I don't get. I mean, if you took a look at her from a distance and the headband and the whole gimmick there, I mean, she might pass for Gal Gadot if you had one eye closed. That's about it. She's also super positive. Her entire introduction video is a whole bunch of, you know, believe in yourself and you can do anything. Which, again, it doesn't get me jazzed up for the match, but it doesn't hurt anybody. You put the positive shit out there in the universe. There is a handshake between these two, but it's sort of like that sarcastic, respectful, competitive type thing. You know, neither one of them wants to let go of the handshake. You know, there's a struggle for power in the early going and all that. Collar and elbow tie-up, and Niven pushes Santana into the corner and lets her go. You know, clean break. Referee calls for break, clean break, and just gives her a little competitive knock on the chin. The crowd is mixed for this match, where the first two matches, they knew exactly who they wanted to win. The third match, they couldn't be paid to give a fuck. They are entirely mixed in this match. Let's go Niven, Santana. Let's go Niven, Santana. And not just at the beginning, throughout the entire match. I'm sorry that I sound like shit, by the way. I do acknowledge it, and it sucks, and I'm trying to get this out here without sounding like I'm fucking dying, and I don't think I'm being very successful. Low drop kick by Santana and some forearm shots, head scissor by Santana and a crossbody by Niven. And again, I'm not saying this to be rude. Somebody the size of Niven hitting you with a crossbody is gonna do some damage. Neck vice by Niven, and she turns it into a cravat and follows it up with a back elbow. Cobra clutch into a lariat by Niven is a nice transition there. Boot by Santana. Springboard tornado T. Tornado T. Yep, that's what I just said. Springboard Tornado DDT by Santana, followed by a dropkick and an Eat Defeat. I'm sorry, I loved Gail Kim back in the day. I love that Eat Defeat is becoming a prominent finisher for a lot of people once again. It's a fun little move. Dropkick by Santana, Eat Defeat. And then Santana rears back, gets herself all backed up and lined up perfectly for a bog standard perfect China-style cartwheel back elbow in the corner. Made me smile a whole bunch. I'm surprised at some point with what WWE's doing with women's wrestling right now, with the fact that we have 3 competitive women's divisions under the WWE umbrella, plus an international tournament like this, and you talk about the history of women and all that sort of thing. I'm surprised that nobody's made reference to China yet. We've referenced everybody else. We've referenced Beth Phoenix and Trish Stratus and Natalya and Lita and Mae Young, Moolah, Alundra Blaze, all these people and all the women now that are involved in the evolution of women's wrestling. I'm surprised. I know there's drama. There's intense drama and intense. It's a sticky situation. It's controversial, especially now that she's passed away. You know, R.I.P. and all that. But I'm really surprised that somebody as influential as China was in her day has not been brought up once in this entire tournament. That kind of sucks. Running splash by Niven, which again, size matters in that scenario. Hurricane Rana by Santana. Senton style elbow to the back by Niven. Santana's laying face down. Niven takes a running start, like you would imagine Bray Wyatt when he goes for the running senton. She goes for the running senton, but she leans her elbow back. So you imagine all the force of that running senton delivered through the force and the point of the elbow, and it just looks like a sick maneuver. And if that's not enough, she follows it up with a Michinoku driver for the win. Jim Ross mentions at the end of the match, haven't seen a Michinoku driver in a while, and it's still as effective as ever. And for the last time in this match, before I start sounding like a douche, yes, a Michinoku driver is gonna hurt even more coming from somebody the size of Piper Niven. I went into this match, I saw 2 really positive chicks, there wasn't really any conflict. I thought, okay, this is gonna be a good little jaunt, but it's not gonna be anything to set my hair on fire. My hat is off, 100%. I'm gonna put... Hey, remember the gimmick hat? It's back. I'm going to put my hat on so I can take my hat off to Piper Niven. Really, really impressive showing by her. Santana Garrett's great. I think we've seen her on NXT before. Nothing you wouldn't see in a regular standard women's match. Piper Niven, because she's so different, because powerful as shit, let's be real for a second, really, really impressed me. And Piper Niven, though, goes on... I'm not talking right tonight. Piper Niven earned my respect tonight, but does not have my support going forward, because in the next round she's going on to face Serena Deeb, and I'm sorry, I gotta throw my vote behind Serena Deeb on that one. Like I say, interesting show, very, very torn up crowd. One disappointing match does not ruin a show. Don't let certain other shooters tell you that one bad match ruins a show. I will acknowledge the one match was bad, and I really question whether I care about Bianca Belair, I'm not gonna lie. But overall, the show's still good. I'm still enjoying the tournament. Obviously, you've gotten 3 interviews in 3 nights from me, so you know that I'm enjoying it. If I wasn't enjoying it, I'd be dragging my ass, like I do on a lot of other things that have just fallen right off on this channel, like Raw and SmackDown, and yeah. But I hope you guys are still having fun. I hope you guys are enjoying these reviews. Please go check out the rest of the playlist. I got a Q&A coming up in like a month. Throw your questions in the Q&A. I'm tired. I'm done. I'm getting the fuck out of here. I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there. Talk down there. Start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you later. But for right now, I'm tagging out. Bye, guys.